Happy Friday and happy Fridays with Fidelman. I'm Cheryl Fidelman, the Conscious Codependence Coach. And today's topic on Fridays with Fidelman is codependence and repression. And how many different ways and reasons one could be repressed or notice the repression of others and what we may make that mean and how other people's repression causes our repression. So just how multidimensional repression can be. And our codependence can tell us how simple repression is, right? Like, I can't say this because if I say this, you're going to say that and you're going to be mad at me or whatever. And so repression. So we repress and we silence ourselves. And that also highlights my idea that codependence is shallow, that it lacks depth, that there's just so much more depth than dimension to us than our codependence tells us. And there's so much more depth and dimension to our repression and what it is that we have to say and express. Okay. So all of that here in this video, please like or subscribe to my channel. Please send your comments in. I always love it when you do. And also an announcement at the end of this video about the upcoming listening workshop, Conscious Codependence Phase 1. And all right, here we go. Codependence and repression. What I mean by repression is self-silencing. In our codependence, it sometimes often seems like somebody else is repressing us or somebody else is shutting us down. But the way that I'm looking at it is that in our codependence, we're actually doing it to ourselves. We're actually taking away our own voice. This can happen for many reasons. Number one, first and foremost, if your default has the major ingredient of your default is to be silenced, then you'll automatically go to repression. And what I mean by that in my work, one of the most important things that we do is we take time to identify your particular unique default. So it's the main behavior of your traumatic identity. It's the main behavior of your nervous system when your youngest trauma gets triggered. So for some of us, the main behavior for our default is repression. So we don't feel safe, we get triggered, we go into repression or silence. For some of us, we go into feeling invisible, or we go into anger or helping or people pleasing. So our youngest unhealed trauma, which is our inner punisher, our default, our traumatic identity, so many distinctions in my work that covers this place where we go to, which is our default. For a lot of us, we get triggered into a particular behavior. So for me, the loudest voice of my youngest unhealed trauma, which is my default, is I get triggered into feeling like I'm nothing, like I'm worthless. So that's where I go when I'm triggered. Repression isn't always an automatic behavior of mine, but for some of us it is, because we all have different defaults and we all have a different place that we go to when we're triggered. So when it comes to repression, it's a cluster of things, okay? We may get repressed because we're projecting into somebody else's world that they're mad at us. So oftentimes repression comes from an interpretation of what's happening with another person. That's where that repression is born out of codependence. It's born out of being more in somebody else's world than it is in our own being in our own world. It's repression caused by being more connected to what we think is going on with somebody else's reality than to what is going on within our own reality. So repression comes from silencing ourselves because of what we're interpreting is happening for another person, silencing ourselves because we are future tripping 5 steps ahead, that if I say the thing that I want to say, and if I say the thing that I'm feeling, then they're going to say this and they're going to say that, and they're going to get mad at me, or this is how it's going to go if I speak and if I say something and if I have a voice in this moment. So we choose repression consciously or unconsciously. Our future tripping causes our own silence or repression. That's another way in which codependence causes our repression. For some of us, the repression is caused by a feeling of inferiority. So your reality or your opinion or your desire or your preference is more important than mine. And so then I will repress my desire or preference or voice in the moment because I defer or acquiesce to yours, which I think is better or more important or has more weight or is more timely or pertinent in the moment. Another reason in which we may choose repression unconsciously is out of shock. If you've ever had this experience of like, I wish I could have said what I wanted, but I didn't even know what I wanted. Or I wish I could have said what I was thinking or what I was interpreting, but I couldn't even tell what I was thinking or interpreting. Because oftentimes our body goes into shock and shutdown cognitively and somatically. So what it is that we are experiencing becomes a mystery and a blind spot to us, and we go into shock. And then, which is demonstrated by just a lack of voice, repression, silence, or shutdown. And we're even silenced to ourselves. It's not even like we are overlooking our own experience or ignoring ourselves. It's like actually nothing's happening inside. It's this shock experience. And with a lot of my clients, those that go into this shock experience, I help them release their experience enough from their nervous system in the moment to actually speak to the shock, to be present to the shock. Because there's so many different ways when it comes to shock or projecting our interpretation to another person's world or going into unworthiness or inferiority. There's so many different ways in which we dissociate from ourselves. And conscious codependence recovery is an access to not dissociating from ourselves in any triggered moment. Doesn't mean we don't have any triggered moments left after doing this work. It doesn't mean that we no longer default to those places, but we actually have a voice in our moment of default. I'm really, really passionate about helping people release repression because 9 times out of 10, it comes from a perceived threat and not a real threat. 9 times out of 10, it comes from feeling unsafe and our cognition or nervous system goes into some sort of protection, a protection that's actually not necessary. And then eventually, for some of us, we start to identify as a repressed person, or we start to identify as somebody who's like silent and doesn't really engage or introverted. And while some of that stuff may be true, I also think that sometimes it's a trauma response and it's not your identity, it's actually your traumatic identity. And in your true nature, you may actually have way more of a voice than what your traumatic identity tells you have. This is one of the many ways in which our codependence can give us a false identity or give us that we experience ourselves actually in a false way. So our upcoming listening workshop, Conscious Codependence Phase 1, our next one begins in a few weeks in September. So if you'd like to learn more about it, please feel free to book your free Decode Your Codependent session with me. And we're going to be going over in that program all of the ways in which you may be listening to your inner punisher or your traumatic identity or your default, how you are listening to all the different dimensions of your inner world that may be causing your repression, that may be causing how you are projecting into other people's worlds and listening to your own projections. So the listening workshop, I really take listening from so many different angles. How are you listening to your mind? How are you listening to your body? How are you listening to other people? It's an intimate experience in a small group, live classes, and extremely transformative and metamorphosis. It's a metamorphosis. A metamorphosis happens. Metamorphoses. Either way, that's what happens. Thank you so much for listening to my thoughts, theories, and rants. And may you return to the truest expression of your voice. happy healing, and life is now.